So here's our last thing. So we've got this internal migration, but internationally we have the immigration as well, right? You're going to have all around the world or inside of countries, whichever you want to talk about, you're going to have places that are economically doing well and economically doing poor. And you'd expect people to be moving between those things. If economics are not doing very well, it'd be weird for me not to move my family over here if I can, where I can have better wages. So that's just an easy way to think about this. So then what happens to these areas then? Do they just sort of collapse like Detroit here? Look at Detroit. I mean, you see places where they actually had to bulldoze areas. Like Detroit shrank by so much because of what we were talking about, the Rust Belt. Is Detroit just doomed then? Is that whole Northwest or Northeast, Midwest area, is it just kind of doomed? Is Chicago, I think they said that Chicago is the only U.S. city that actually lost population in the last sort of 5 years. Chicago's in that area. Is Chicago doomed? And here's what we want to talk about. We want to talk about this idea called creative destruction. This will be sort of the last thing we talk about today. This is capitalism 101. This is how capitalism operates. So this is the story that we tell about these things that makes us feel good. So capital investment flows like the wind. So if I've got money, I'm going to invest it into the thing that's going to get me the most profit. If there is more profit over there, I'll pull my money out of this thing and invest it in that thing over there. That's just investing in stocks. So capital is going to move from low profit areas to high profit areas. So I just want you to think about this for a second. If you had $1 million and you took your money out of high profit areas and moved to low profit areas, you wouldn't be a millionaire very long. This is just how capitalism works. Great. Jobs and demographics will probably follow this flow. If more money is being invested in the Southwest, because that's where the profit is, then jobs are going to be going down there too. And if jobs are moving down there, then people need to move as well. So all this stuff is going to sort of, again, capitalism is going to affect, and I don't mean this in sort of the capitalism, Marxism sort of sense. I just mean in the sense of the way the economic system works. It's all sort of drives not just sort of jobs in the economy, but where people actually live. So you're going to get a downturn in low areas. Does that mean, again, as we were talking about this, does that mean Detroit is doomed? What that does, that should create, according to capitalism, it should create opportunities, incentives for changes. Detroit should, again, if everything's working right, it should reinvent itself. In other words, the economy has changed. Detroit hasn't changed because things were working well, and that led to the collapse. So they have to change with the changing economy and attract jobs back. So if they do this successfully, they'll get a return of investment. They'll turn it into a high profit area, and capital will flow back in, jobs will flow back in, people will flow back in. And that's what Detroit has been trying to do for the last 20 years, is try to figure out how do we used to be a car capital of the world. Well, we're no longer the car capital of the world. So how do we reinvent ourselves so we can attract people back to Detroit? And that's going to be true, again, it's true at the sort of national level. It's true at the local level. If you look in just, like if you crack open San Diego, it's going to be working the same way. As things sort of hit a downturn in one area, then you might see something called gentrification, where essentially people come in and try to reinvest in an area, to try to reinvent it, and value comes back and people come back. So this is sort of a very common thing. What role does politics have in this? From a purely capitalist position, the politicians should stay out of this whole thing and just let it happen. But they can't, because politics is determined by demographics. Where do people live? And so don't expect politicians to stay out of this process. And that's going to be one of those interesting things that we would see, not just locally, not just nationally, but internationally. How does this sort of work out? This was just a taster on this. There's a lot more to talk about on this, and I don't know that I did a great job on it, but I won't give you an assignment so everything evens out. So I'll see you guys on Thursday, where we're going to fix global poverty.